it's a game of chess.
Yeah.
So the first thing in chess is you've got to know where all the pieces are on the board. People buy from people.
Sure.
So your personal brand, what you stand for, your values, your trust, and the people that work for me represent me. They're an extension. People look at me and say, "Oh, Mark, you build companies and sell them." Actually, I'd like to think I build brands. If you're not prepared to give it 110%, the only guarantee I'll give you is you will fail.
Today, we're diving into entrepreneurship with Mark Sweeney, the founder and CEO of Novo Solutions, an award-winning Welsh company. Mark also founded and sold Certus, who were early pioneers of Oracle Cloud in the UK and Ireland a decade ago. Before we dive in, a bit about Black Swan Productions. We're a Cardiff-based production company creating branded content to help businesses connect with their audiences. We also produce original projects, from independent horror short films to this podcast and upcoming animal welfare content. In this episode, we talk to Mark about his journey, building businesses, advice for entrepreneurs, and much more. I hope you enjoy this episode, and feel free to use the time codes to skip to any section. So Mark, why are you an entrepreneur?
Why am I an entrepreneur? I guess I'm completely unemployable to begin with. So I have little choice from that side. I think I like solving problems. And I think all entrepreneurs do. I think it's a bit of a fallacy. Entrepreneurs do it to get rich. I don't know anybody in my peer group that started businesses because of that. But it was really to solve problems. And I think what you get as an entrepreneur, where you're not in the corporate setting, is you don't have constraints around you. You can think up the most outrageous solutions to problems, and you can trust your gut and go with it, and no one's telling you can't do something because of X, Y, Z. And I think that I like being in that environment.
Yeah. So would you say entrepreneurs are born or are they made?
I think they're made, because I don't know anybody. I mean, when I left school, I didn't say, right, I'm going to go and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what the word meant. So, and I think I'm a serial entrepreneur. I mean, I've done 4 startups, 3 businesses I've founded. So I've done it time and time again. But you don't ever stop learning. It's continuous learning. And yeah, I'm better at it today than I was when I started, because you continually learn from there. So I think you're made. I really do think you're made. I think you do have to have that appetite for risk, and you're willing to put yourself out there. I think that comes from inside you. It's probably something in your DNA from that side. But that's the way I look at it.
So what has been your drive and motivation throughout your entrepreneurial journey? Has it been, say, to make a lot of money, to solve problems, because you love technology? What is it exactly that drives you?
I think the recurring theme has, through all the businesses I've done, is that I like solving problems. I like seeing the solutions that I create make a fundamental change to people. I mean, I always say, and I say this to all the people, I mean, yes, I'm in the technology business, but technology is not really about technology. It's all about people, because it's the impact you have on people, and positive impact, and that's what I like to see. You can really, really make a difference. I mean, I've worked on projects where I've created 500 jobs through technology. I mean, that's pretty cool, being part of a team that's being able to do things like that. So, we've done, especially in the early days of cloud, we did so much pioneering stuff. I mean, we were literally making it up as we were going along, and it was fun, but you were exploring, you was being curious, you were just enjoying it, and you were learning from it. It's that constant state of learning. But I think with the latest company, De Novo, I think that's been added to, because De Novo's been very much a company that we've built and we've layered it and we've put a lot of investment in, and I've enjoyed it. We've getting the kids out of school, getting them involved in technology, giving them a start in their careers. I mean, I was really lucky. I had people that believed in me when I was really young and gave me opportunities. And now being able to do that, but on a bigger scale, you know, we've been, you know, for the 3 years we've now been in business, we've now got 8 apprentices at different levels, and we've got 8 graduates that have come in. So that's 16 young people now. We've got them into tech, and it's fun. If I could understand them, it'd be even better. But it's really fun, and it's great to do that, and I've really enjoyed doing it. And especially, you know, we've been based it down in Wales predominantly, and to be able to do it down here, it's been great.
Nice. So Mark, how did you initially grow your business? I suppose we're talking here now about Certus, and what were the key milestones in scaling it from, say, 50 staff to 100 staff and so on?
So if you go back to Certus, and there is a difference between Certus and de Novo. Certus was a company that was assembled,
right?
And really, we've only kind of recognised this looking back, and that's because the work we were doing at the time, which was really this pioneering stuff going into the undiscovered country that was cloud at the time. And you have to remember, this is like 2011. this is a lifetime ago. And we needed a lot of experienced people to be able to do that, or we felt we needed a lot of experienced people. So we brought together and should we say we acquired by hook, line and sinker an very experienced team of people that came together to try and tackle this problem about how do we implement this new technology to digitalise and automate HR, payroll, finance and procurement, and really create these new systems in the cloud at the time, you know. And it was all about standardised business processes. You know, how do you get companies and organisations to standardise? And of course we were very active in central government, and that's really where we've kind of made our name, you know, doing all of that. And one of the reasons we came to Wales was because Certus did the first central government public sector implementation of Oracle Cloud back in 2015, 2016, and it was at the Office of National Statistics, which is obviously, for those who don't know, is just off junction 28 off the M4 down in Wales, so just outside of Newport. So that was real trailblazing stuff at the time, and you know, we needed that experience to be able to tackle those kind of problems that we felt, and you know, that made us successful. And then from that, because we only focused on the new technology, and I suppose this was the risk really, because cloud was so new back then that we kind of left the legacy technology that we had built all our careers on behind. And to be honest, in the early years, we were too far ahead of the game. The customers weren't with us, you know, you know, we did all the entrepreneurial things like mortgage our houses, and you know, and the true stories are, you know, 2 weeks before payroll was run, I used to go to the cash point and get £500 a day out on my American Express card, because by the time the payroll ran, I had enough money from my American Express card to pay people. So we truly did those kind of things. You know, that's the kind of risks that we took in those days, because we were too far ahead of the curve. We knew it was the right thing to do. We knew Oracle were pumping billions of R&D into it, and the time was coming, and we also knew that central government needed this kind of system, this kind of technology. So we were really far ahead of the game. It was exciting and scary at the same time, because everything was on the line, and you know, we nearly went bankrupt twice as well, and you know, we can talk about that now. We never talked about that at the time with the staff, obviously, because we were building it. But because we were dedicated to this new technology, and people would come to us because we would say, we're not doing all the old stuff. If you come to us, we're just doing this new stuff. And they would go, well, what is the new stuff? And we would try and explain to them, and it was like, because it was always evolving, and it was literally evolving every 3 months, 3 to 6 months, and it was changing. So really, we were building and scaling, and because of reputation, and it's typical. The advantage we had was, though, it paid off, because it was typical textbook advantage, MBA stuff, first mover advantages. We were first. We set the narrative, we set the bar, and everybody else had to follow, but we were already there. We did the first implementations. by default, we were the experts. So people would come to us, the business started to come in, and the talent would come to us naturally and retain. So from that side of things. But that was 14 years ago, before COVID, before all the kind of the world's a different place now.
Yeah.
And when we came to Wales, we've worked in Wales for 20 years. I originally came and built what they call today Shared Services Connected. It was I know it as the Prison Service Phoenix program, and I was part of the team as the project manager that helped build one of the first big shared services down here. Ironically, just around the corner from the Office of National Statistics, which was the initial client for the new technology. And so I knew there was a lot of talent down in Wales, and also we all know, because it's so well publicised, about the lack of digital skills in the country. Without getting into the Brexit debate and the car crashes of all of that, it hasn't been helpful. Now we have two choices. We can sit here and moan about it and keep moaning about it, or we can bite the bullet and do something about it. And my view was, entrepreneurs, we bite the bullet and go, right, we know down in Wales there's a lot of untapped talent. I personally see there's a lot of talk about where the geography of Wales works against it. I actually see the geography working for us, because Welsh people tend to want to stay in Wales. So let's build the company down in Wales. So we need to go to the orchards. So we just literally rocked up to Collie Gwyn and said, right, who's doing technology courses? We knew about the Welsh Government's apprenticeship programme, which I'm highly passionate about because it's been a big jump starter for us. And using Collie Gwyn to say to, the people that are leaving, college, that there's a different path. You don't just have to go to university. Hey, why don't you come and earn while you learn? So, and I wish I had it when I was, leaving school. You come and work with us 4 days a week. You're paid by us, and you're learning Oracle and the ServiceNow skills, really top-notch industry skills. And on the 5th day, we partner with University of South Wales down in Newport. They go to University of South Wales, they do a technology degree, and the Welsh Government is funding that 100%.
Wow.
No debt, no 60, 70,000 debt at the end. If anything, you're coming out at the end of it with highly desirable skills. And the fact of it is, if you've lasted that and got the degree, I'm going to have to pay you, you're going to earn more money because you're going to stay with market rates. So you're in a win-win situation, and I think that's great. And it does take investment. It is hard work. We're not perfect. We're still working through how we have to develop the skills, because it's not just about technology skills. When you're dealing with young people, it's a lot about the soft skills, as well. And there's a lot of effort that has to go into that, and it takes time. And we're still learning about it every day. And each year we get better at it. But we've still got a long way to go. But the company's been built. So as opposed to Certus that was assembled, De Novo's been built. So we have an apprenticeship scheme, we have the graduate scheme, and then we have junior and experienced hires building out. So it's really a perfectly formed company.
So what are the key takeaways from growing Certus then? What are the key kind of milestones that you kind of hit, and how you, any kind of key failures, any key learnings, any kind of lessons that other entrepreneurs can take away from those key milestones?
Milestones. I think there's 3, the way I look at it. The first one is product market fit and timing. Business, so much about business is timing. Oracle at the time were producing this great product. We could see the potential of it, but we were too far ahead of the market, and it took time. Now it's just de facto, but it wasn't back then. We were too far. And of course, when you're doing that kind of thing, cash is king. It's about, understanding cash is the fuel, is the oxygen, of any company. And, you could say lesson 1 is really cash is king, and understanding your cash runway, how you preserve that cash runway. And, every other lesson is look at lesson 1 kind of thing, which is cash. So I think product market fit, cash is king, and understanding money, how you leverage money, and how you make it go as far as possible.
And how did you do that?
What with Certus? Originally badly. But with De Novo, I would say we are infatuated by cash flow.
Right, okay.
We look at cash flow every single day.
Wow.
But we have tools, and we're more experienced, and we're more calculated about the risks we take, and we understand the implications on cash, on what we do, because we're self-funded. We generate our own cash, we recycle the cash, we make the cash work for us.
Right.
But you see, we're very good at it now.
Yeah.
But in Certus, it was a learning experience, because we were always running out of cash. Hence the American Express card story, or all the time at the cash point. And that's a true story. But we really understand that, and we know how to make cash work for you. So when we're negotiating contracts and payment times, it's always going into the master cash flow spreadsheet. And the cash flow, the way we operate, isn't just a couple of months out, it's a year out.
Right.
So we know the cause and effect of things we may want to do in 3 or 4 months time, and we can model it, so we understand it, so we're not in that position, so we're mitigating risk all the time.
So how do you learn how to deal with cash flow?
How do you learn how to deal with it?
What advice would you give to people?
We did it the hard way, because we ran out of money several times. I think it's in a way, a degree is basic maths. It's all about timing of payments, knowing when monies are coming in, knowing what your liabilities are, when monies are going out, and it's basically it's no difficult than having 3 columns of on a spreadsheet of when the money's coming in, when the money's going out, what's left, because that's what you've got to play with, and it's making sure you've accounted for absolutely everything. And if you're running out of money, really, the idea isn't, and I always say this to people, because people always come to me and say about raising money. I mean, there's a whole conversation on that, but my view is, don't necessarily raise money, sell more.
Right. Okay,
is understanding how you sell. And we have the big saying I always have when I talk to my development teams and all the people that work for me, is how do we get to cash as quickly as possible?
Right.
So everything we do, I've got a new idea for a new service. So how quickly am I going to get to cash?
Right. Okay.
So we've got to package it, sell it.
So is that a new thing that you've learned?
Yeah, but it's very much focused. But as I said, you package it, you sell it, and then the money's still got to come to you, right, before it's banked.
Right.
And it only counts when it's in your bank account.
Yeah.
So it's how do we get to cash as quickly as possible? And everything we do is focused on that.
So when you say it only counts when it's in your bank account, what does that mean?
Because that's when it's physically in your bank account and you can use it, because you can control it. Up until that point, it might be owed to you, but you haven't got it.
Yeah, sure.
So it's got to be in your account, and then you can do what you need to do with it.
Yeah. So what was the third takeaway?
The third takeaway.
Or the third milestone.
The third milestone. I think it's always thinking about the end game.
Right.
And we designed Certus very much that we were always going to sell it in the future.
Okay.
So
you knew that
we knew that right at the beginning.
Okay.
We knew, and to build a company to sell, and not many people actually do it.
Right. Okay.
So it's a very small gene pool of people that have actually sold companies and financially made money from it. But you've got to know what your goal is, how the end game is, and it's your path to that end game. And we understood that from day one, and it's been really, really focused on that, and how the exit was going to play out. So, and it's always, that's not saying that you might have to pivot or change there, but I think it's understanding that from the beginning. where you're trying to get to and how long. Again, it's all about timing, So that's key. But we were always pretty good about that. That was something, I suppose, before we started Certus, we knew about, and we were very locked on. But to build a company, to sell it, it has to look a certain way, and that's what it's not what we call a lifestyle company. Nothing wrong with lifestyle companies. That's when entrepreneurs basically are looking after themselves and their families.
I see.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all.
Sure.
And there are 99% of the UK economy is SMEs, and probably 90% of them are that type of company. Right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Do those companies employ staff as well? They're just not.
Yeah. Right. They, sometimes they're just family companies that just want to be passed down within the families, and from those, and there's they're. And there's some fantastically successful companies out there like that. But when you're building a company that you're actually going to sell to someone, you're going to sell to we sold to a big American systems integrator with Certus. But when you're going to sell to someone, it has to look a certain way. Right. And you're going to go through, quite rightly so, very extensive due diligence. And therefore you've got to be whiter than white and clean. So all the things about the way you manage your finances, the way you manage all your employment contracts, very topical at the moment with the new employment legislation appearing. Again, we won't dive down that bunny hole. I've got views on that. But all the work you do for customers, is it all contracted? Do you've got to ensure all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed. And the way you operate the company has to have structure and purpose, because that's what you're selling. And if it doesn't have that, it becomes less attractive to buy, or you won't get the valuation perhaps that you're looking for.
So what would you say are some practical key tips then for if you're, because I can imagine a lot of entrepreneurs, they just think as long as they start a company and they grow it and it's doing successfully, that will lead to a sale eventually. So what are some key tips in the sense of starting a business specifically to sell it?
Right, running a company when you start, it's, and the ones as people who know me well, it's Mark and a few of his friends who keep coming on the journey. But in all seriousness, you start and there's like 5 of you. I think with De Novo there was seven of us, or 3 of us then became 7. When there's 7 of you and you're starting out, it's all very easily manageable. People know what they're doing, their roles are, and it's there. Then 7 becomes very quickly becomes 14, and then 14 becomes 21, and then it grows. And to be honest, when you get to about 15 people, you start needing structure.
I see.
Proper structure, and you do have to put the structure in place, and people want structure as well. It's a fallacy that people don't want structure. That doesn't mean you can't have fun, and I'm not talking about creating layers of bureaucracy, because if you want that, you go and, with all due respect, go and join a big corporate. You can have that in bucket space, but you do need structure, because you need focus of what you're trying to do, and you need to be able to execute. So and how you manage changes as you move forward. And there's a lot cited, and some of it's a bit cliche, but it's dead right. Steve Jobs always says, we didn't hire smart people to tell them what to do. The most successful entrepreneurs will tell you, we hire people around us that are smarter than us. We have the vision and where we want to go, but we need people to help us on that journey. And we bring, and if you bring smart people on board, you've got to empower them to give them control so they can drive the business forward. You don't sit there as dictatorial about it. You've got to empower them. Now, empowerment has borders, don't get me wrong, it's not a free-for-all, but you've got to give people the ability to go make decisions. Sometimes they'll make wrong decisions, but do you know what? It's a learning experience. Just don't do it again, because that's the way you learn. You don't always learn from successes, though you can,
Yeah,
but
sure.
you will learn more from the failures. But you've got to empower people, and as you grow, you give them the responsibilities for their teams, and they all know. Now we have our strategies, is broken up as a parts of a jigsaw, and we say to people, the executive team that owns 2 or 3 pieces of the jigsaw, just focus on delivering your bits of the jigsaw. When we put all the bits together, we will achieve the goal that we want. Focus on your bits of the jigsaw first. Once you've got that under control, if someone else is struggling, shout, and we go and support them from that way. And that's the way we look at it.
So what would you say are the key pieces to the jigsaw? Is it as simple as someone looks after the money, someone looks after the marketing, someone looks after the sales? What are the key kind of pieces?
No, there's more. To me, there's more to it. It's breaking strategy up, and again, you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you can't execute, it's there. What you're trying to do is break strategy up into achievable chunks that people can understand, and if they execute that chunk, it will fit into the bit.
And what are the key chunks, would you say?
Well, I think it's one bit. In our, we have 12 elements. Don't ask me to name all 12 elements there. But one key thing is brand, building a brand.
Okay.
And that's I've always been big into that. So especially with Certus, De Novo's the same. As you've seen what a rocket ship it's become. But we've built a brand and creating brand awareness. So all that stuff. Sometimes they teach you, an MBA is about brand values and things like that, and positioning and place, and was it 4Ps, 7Ps, or 7Ps, and all of that kind of theory. Actually, it does work. It does work because I've used it many times. But you build a brand, and then you need to protect the brand, and it's the reputation of the brand, and it's the way you conduct yourself. You've got to live, and that comes down to values.
Right.
And that comes down to the culture of the company. But you do not, when you build a company, say, "Oh, tick box, item 1, let's build a culture." It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. But you've got to build the values of the company, and it underpins it. And you've got to live and breathe it, because that's what you use to execute.
So, Mark, we spoke about Certus's key milestones. So what would you say are the ones for De Novo?
For De Novo, as I said, De Novo's been a company that's been built. First of all, the milestones for us is still that commitment to bring young people into the industry. That's really big for us, and really, especially down in Wales, it's really contributing to the local economy and the community, and we like being part of it down here. So that's really key. So the milestones for us really is, our view is, as you know, we're come October we'll be 100 people, which is pretty strong.
And how long has it taken to get to 100?
3.5 years.
Right. So just coming out the start stage.
So we're well out the start stage. we're into serious growth stage. But the commitment to bringing the young people through is there, and our commitment we're about to launch is what we call 50 in 5, which we want to generate another 50 net new jobs.
Right.
In Wales over the next 5 years.
Wow,
and predominantly we want to bring that through apprentices and graduates, and where we'll take graduates from any university. Obviously, we're talking to University of Swansea, University of South Wales, Cardiff University, and Cardiff Met as well. So we really want to really hook into that local talent and bring that into the company in a big way. So that's the first one. So that addresses the challenge that you have about the talent pool, from there. The second one is obviously customer retention. We've got 23 customers at the moment. That doesn't sound a lot, but as I said, I know we've talked before off camera around my views on the Jerry Maguire principle, which isn't necessarily show me the money, but it's also the Jerry Maguire principle right at the beginning of the film is lesser customers, longer term partnerships, therefore they become more profitable for both parties over the time. And I think myself and fellow directors, we're more attracted to that, building long term partnerships with highly valued and delivering a great service from there. So, and obviously a big measure for that is customer retention. They don't go elsewhere, and they're the biggest source of marketing you get is customer advocacy. It's the holy grail.
I mean, a quick question onto that. Is it more expensive to get new customers compared to retaining ones?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Winning new business is hard work.
Yeah.
So when you've won customers, you want to keep them, and you want to really develop those relationships, because the cost of sale is significantly less. And especially at times when you're going after the kind of work we do with public sector, regardless of what they say, public sector procurement is still very expensive to play in. From there, it can be rewarding, but it is challenging. And in our game, we're always competing against the big companies.
Right, sure.
But that's some of the fun of of playing with this, is taking the big companies on and winning, obviously, from there. So the customer side of it, or in those milestones, they're still growing that, but keeping retention and long-term milestones. From that, obviously, comes revenue, because you need revenue, you need cash, going back to what we've talked about around cash. What we want is building recurring revenue. So that gives us a strong financial resilience, and it allows us to recycle our own cash and investments in the company, and we can control the growth. Also, if you do it right, you don't necessarily need outside funds, or not on the early days anyway. There may be a point in time when you may need that later, but not necessarily to begin with. So I think it's that focus on recurring revenue. So, and then I suppose the what really hangs it all together is your employees, and their, that commitment to delivery excellence, and having happy employees, looking after them, that they stay with you all the way through. And I don't think you can't definitely take the people that have chosen, and I feel quite privileged they've chosen to come and work for us. You can't take them for granted, and you've got to be, wanting to mentally stimulate and challenge them, and obviously ensure their remuneration is appropriate moving forward. You want them to stay with you, because if you've got happy employees, they will deliver delivery excellence, they will deliver happy customers, and revenue comes from there. It's not a difficult equation when you join the dots, but you've got to do every bit.
Sure. So a really common topic is around failure in entrepreneurship, and that can be failure with starting a business and the business fails. That can be failure with just hitting brick walls. How do you deal with failure? What advice would you give to people? And I suppose, what advice would you give to them where they feel like they can't go anywhere?
I think it's a difficult one. For me personally, I just see it as a learning experience from there. Obviously, I don't want to fail, and I, and I suppose as I've got older, I'm more, I wouldn't say risk averse. I'm just even more calculated about the risks that I take and things like that. But I have, I believe in strong governance. I have a great board of directors. I have non-exec directors to ensure that we don't mess up. When you're running a company our size, we've got 100 people. It's more than 100 people. We've got all the families. So we we're looking after 400 people really in reality. So we're not going to take unnecessary risks and mess up, because that's on our shoulders. That's we live and breathe that. We're very, very aware and focused of the responsibilities we have in running a business of this size on the people that work for us and their families. So we do have to take risks. We wouldn't be entrepreneurs if we didn't. You don't do the kind of pioneering work or push the boundaries without taking risks.
What does risks mean exactly?
I suppose financial failure, you're losing money somewhere, affects your cash flow, you might not be able to do something. You obviously, the golden rule of any business should be you make payroll sacrosanct every month, that is first and foremost. And, at the end of the day, the entrepreneurs, we we're the last to get paid. Okay, we're lucky we're a stable business. I do get paid every month, but when you go back to the Certus days, there was months when we didn't get paid.
Oh wow.
There was a lot of months we didn't get paid. So so I get it, and that might be, oh well, that's really easy for you to say, Mark. It's that outlook. But my advice to people is really think through about what you're going to do. Don't overthink it, but just do the basics, pros and cons of what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do, and think it through and talk it through with people.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky. I work with a gentleman called Tim Warner. We've been business partners for 17 years or something.
Wow, yeah.
And if I want to make a certain more risky move, I will talk to Tim about it first. And it's great. For me, it's brilliant. I've got somebody to say, and he will give a different perspective on it.
Sure.
And I'm smart enough to listen.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily agree, but I'm smart enough to listen to it and think it through. And as I said, I've got non-exec directors and people around. So, we use the governance and the controls around us to make those decisions. But when you're starting up, talk to people.
Right.
Get different people's opinions and views on things.
Right.
Think it through and just try and mitigate the risk in that way. That's what I would do. Don't just go and do something. Talk to people. As I said, you don't necessarily have to agree with them.
Yeah.
But if you respect them and think about what they're saying and why they're saying it, and just take that into consideration when you're making the decisions. At the end of the day, the bit about being an entrepreneur is you make the call. You have to you have to roll the dice or not roll the dice.
Yeah, sure.
But it's your decision.
So what's is there ever a key thing that comes into your mind when things aren't going very well, when you feel like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work out? What comes into your mind that kind of keeps you going? Or what do you say to yourself to maybe keep you going?
Well, there's a bit of it that's sheer bloody mindiness, and it's there. But equally, don't throw money after bad money. Do you know, if you're losing it, you've got to know when to stop.
Right.
As I said, but we tend not to get into that position.
Yeah.
But if you do, there are some things we've tried and don't work. By far from perfect, from there, and it's learning to pivot, and it's also sometimes things don't work out the way you expect them to work out. And you've just got to realise that. And there is a saying about try stuff and fail fast. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Because it costs less money, but you've got to have, I think, the grit about you to try it in the first place, and it's just and knowing the risks you do. So it's like another thing. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You just try and mitigate that risk out.
So Mark, what do you believe is the single most important skill for an entrepreneur, either to develop or to naturally have? Because a lot of people say it's perseverance, just really persevering. Is that the key skill?
I think the first thing is you've got to have a passion for it.
Right.
And that's in your DNA. I don't think you go learn passion. Right?
Yeah, sure.
You've got to you've got to want to do it. And do you know what? You've got to want to do it every single day.
Yeah, sure.
You don't get a day off, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to be passionate about it. And with that you've got to be 110% committed.
Right.
I'm sorry, there is no work-life balance. It's all nonsense. When you're doing this is what you've chosen, I've chosen, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And I'm very lucky. I've got an incredibly supportive wife who supports me in what I do. But you've got to be passionate about it. If you're not passionate about it, how are you going to inspire other people?
Yeah.
The people that work for you and the customers who you want to sell stuff to. Yeah. So you've got to be passionate about it. And that's in your DNA. You don't go to passion school and learn. That comes from you. And I think it's a good test. If you're not passionate about it, and you even on the bad days, and you still got to go out of bed, and you still got to go to work, you got to punch through it. That perseverance, that grit, that tenacity, you do have to have that. And you need it in bucket loads. There's a lot of people that I know and I've come across who've given up because it's got too difficult. Do you know? And I get it.
Yeah.
But that's not the way the game's played. Do you know? It's all or nothing, and that truly is what it's about. If you're not prepared to give it 110%, the only guarantee I'll give you is you will fail.
Right. So what would you say is one key skill people need to have, they need to develop? What's been the most important skill for you?
I think it's really understanding the market you're selling into.
Okay.
Understanding your customers, really understanding the pain point, understand all the players in the market. I say this to a lot of people. It's like, again, it's a cliche, but it's true. It's a game of chess. Yeah. So the first thing in chess is you've got to know where all the pieces are on the board.
Yeah.
That includes who your customers are, who your competition is. You've got to see where the move, and you're thinking 5 moves ahead.
Yeah.
And really take time to educate yourself, and it's constant because the board is always changing. Right?
Yeah, sure.
You don't just learn it and it stays,
yeah.
but really understand the market you're operating in and all the players in the market. Recognizing new players will come in, some players will also leave as well, but really understand that, because that's the battlefield.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to play. And if you don't understand that, you're going to become a casualty. So that's really important. And but what you find, I think what we found in our markets is, once you really understand it, there are aspects of the market that become really predictable.
Right.
And this is the trick.
Yeah.
Predictability creates opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest takeaway, because I've been doing it for so long in such a specialised market and helped create the market.
Yeah.
Do you know, to a degree, fully accept it's evolved way beyond what we were doing, 14, 15 years ago. But really understanding a lot about your competition, about how they operate, because they become very predictable. As I said, I compete against a lot of big systems integrators.
Yeah.
And I can tell you exactly what they're going to do before their teams know they're going to do it, because they're governed by corporate structures and the way they approach things.
Right.
And that predictability creates space in the market and opportunities. But I only can see that because I constantly educate myself day in, day out on what the market looks like.
And what would be a key tip for learning how to do that?
As I said, I think it's start with the principles of chess, understand all the pieces on the board, who all the players are. So what is the market you want to play in? So you'll see things like the total addressable market for IT services in the UK. I wouldn't know what it is. It's billions probably, but you're not going to, that's the bigger playing field. So now start bringing it down to the smaller playing field.
Sure.
Understand exactly where you're going to play.
Yeah.
Are you playing in the right place? What are the components of where you're planning to play?
Yeah. And
can you see the opportunities to win the game effectively? It is a game, and that's how you look at it. But you've got to do the groundwork, the research on it all. But my biggest thing is also remember that markets are dynamic. They are constantly changing, so you've got to be on top of it all. You've got to understand where it is.
Okay, so how important is brand building and storytelling, whether that's brand building of a personal brand and reputation, or storytelling of the actual brand, the company?
In my eyes, massive.
Right.
Absolutely massive. But a lot of, with Certus and de Novo, people come to me not just because of the company brand, because of my personal brand, because we're seen as a safe pair of hands. We're the people that get this technology in and get it working.
Right.
We've done a lot of work in central government, a lot of recovery work in central government over
Right.
the years.
So is it sharing the success stories? Is that really powerful?
It is. It's keeping your brand out there.
Yeah.
Again, don't take anything for granted. New people come into the industry, they don't know you, you've got to educate them. Storytelling's the best way. Picture paint video, picture paints 1,000 words. You know, 10, 12 years ago it was all blogging and stuff like that. Well, nobody really wants to do that anymore. I mean, occasionally we do it. The written word still has a place, without a doubt. Has a place, but you know, if you want to convey messaging in an era where TikTok rules and the sound bites delivered in 15 seconds or something, you're competing against that. And I know, and you've got to be able to communicate your message in that shorter time. We always used to call it the elevator pitch, didn't we?
Right.
Can you communicate what your business is about in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of rule of thumb still stands good today.
Yeah.
The trick, though, I think, is we've got things like video that we can use to communicate that messaging quicker.
Yeah.
So, which helps because
Yeah.
the technology and what we use personally is there. And, you know, I still think, well, in my game, what I do, people buy from people.
Sure.
So your personal brand, what you stand for, your values, your trust, and the people that work for me represent me. They're an extension of that. You know, that's really important, and that's something really, really key to us, because especially as you grow and get bigger, we want everybody, you know, kind of buying into that and operating in the same way. So the brand side of things and the way you communicate that brand, really important. Totally. You know, in a way, people look at me and say, "Oh, Mark, you build companies and sell them." Actually, I'd like to think I build brands.
Nice.
You know, that's my objective. I suppose, you know, we talked about milestones earlier. Is, you know, to me, you know, perhaps the missing milestone, you know, because you're putting me on the spot, is about making De Novo the definitive brand in the space. I think we're not doing too badly at the moment, but you know, long way to go still.
So what would you say the word brand actually means? When you think of De Novo as a brand, what does that mean?
To you and to an external viewer.
To me, as a brand, what it means is delivery excellence.
Yeah.
That's our core value. That's what we stand for. That's what we drive into the staff, and that's how we want. It's not just being perceived for that. It's actually living and breathing it. So to me, the brand that represents us is delivery excellence.
And what does the word brand mean? What does that?
Brand to me is basically the entity of how it represents you in the workplace or the industry, the market segment, how you project your image to that segment. That's what it's about to me.
What does it mean to sell a company? What is the process behind selling a company? How do you make a decision to sell your company? Something that's must be like your baby at a certain point.
Yeah, I think if the ultimate goal is to sell the company, you have to set your own criteria of what you're trying to get out of it. Now, you can talk monetary because it's tangible.
Sure.
You can say, right, I'm only going to sell for X pounds. Obviously, you've got to build a company of value that is worth X pounds to be sold, and somebody values it to pay for that, because you know there's lots of ways people value companies, and people that know me know that I'm a big fan of rest in peace, a gentleman called Charlie Munger, who basically would take knocks out of EBITDA multiple valuations, because I used to go EBITDA, everybody has to pay insurance and tax. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, so I'm a big fan of free throw cash. But at the end of the day, look, regardless of all the different mathematical ways you can value a company, it's only worth what someone's prepared to pay for it. Sure. But you have to build something of value to begin with for it to be worth that. So that's the first thing. So I don't get too transfixed on, we're going to sell the company, because that's the wrong thing. It's about, let's just build something of value that we enjoy doing as well, because you may never sell a company.
Sure.
You know, it's not guaranteed.
No,
you know,
of course.
and it's there, and you know, part of doing what we do, work is supposed to be fun. You enjoy it. Enjoy the good times and the bad. Gets you through the bad times, kind of thing. So, your focus shouldn't. I don't believe is right. Let's sell a company and we're going to make millions from it. I think that's wrong. That's totally wrong. I think the focus is let's build something of value that we enjoy building. And we're all getting something out of it.
Sure.
If it's then goes to the next stage, then great, but your focus is there. But when you go through the process and you've set some parameters about what would actually make a sale an interesting business opportunity, to look at, the due diligence is probably going to take you 6 to 9 months, maybe a year to go through. It's not, in my experience and my peers I know of experience, doesn't happen overnight. Very rarely does. I mean, the fastest I've ever seen a company be sold is within 3 months, and that's ridiculous fast.
Oh, really?
Okay. Most companies are 9 to 12 months.
Wow, okay.
Because of the due diligence and the negotiations and the legal side and all of these things in kind of our space, in our place. Obviously, probably differs from different industries to things, but it's not a quick process, and it's time consuming. But remember, while perhaps you're trying to sell the company, you've got to keep the wheels of the bus turning round, because payroll still needs to be made every month. You've still got to be delivering excellence to customers, the services, all the you can't, I think people can get distracted from it. To be honest, when I've been involved in it, and if I was involved in it again, I don't actually sell the company. I get people to do it for me.
Right, I see, okay.
So, and I think that's important. I think people will say to you, the worst person to sell a company is the founder.
Right.
Right? So they're not the people that sell the company. And I don't. I help set the parameters.
Sure.
But I don't get, I get involved at the end.
Very interesting.
So there's a, you could shoot a whole video on that, but there's a lot of good logic behind all of that, that's behind that kind of sentiment behind it. But I mean, I wasn't the one who sold Certus. I had people set it for me.
I see.
So how would you summarise, quite quickly, the feeling around selling a company? How do you feel after doing it? Because I suppose obviously you have...
to be honest, emotionally empty.
Wow. Okay.
Business isn't about emotions. You can't. I don't think when you're playing that game you can have emotions in business.
Sure.
Is the business opportunity right? Does it make financial sense? When you're that far down, if it's yes, then you go with it, because that's kind of the end of it. Individually, emotionally, and I've seen a lot of stuff about this on the internet with other founders. Yeah, you feel completely empty.
Wow.
It's gone. I honestly said, when I sold Certus and I had to sign the final paperwork, funny enough, my business partner was in Vegas. He wasn't with me. I always thought that we would be together when we did it, and just for work reasons we weren't.
Right.
We had to do this dual signing from the other side of the world, so it was all there. But after it, I walked across London Bridge, and I would say it was all gone by the time I walked across London Bridge.
Wow. And
it was the weirdest feeling in the world, because we had been on this thing for 7 years, and it was suddenly gone.
Yeah.
Really, really weird. Wow. Really, really weird place to be.
And really quickly, what piece of advice would you give to any entrepreneurs, any aspiring entrepreneurs, anybody growing a business? What piece of advice would you give to them?
Go do it, be passionate about it, go knock it out of the park, go for it. Why not? I mean, if you really believe in it, go for it. You only live once.